Hey everyone in the Caribbean area, how are you guys doing today? My name is Ron Peterson and I'm here to tell you how the food insecurity problem is going on in your area. So Latin America and the Caribbean in today's world is first in the region in international hunger goals. The food issues and food systems approach for the Caribbean is that the food insecurity is the state of being without reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable, nutritious food. A large number of things can contribute to food insecurity. The globe lacks diversity because the diets in each country are becoming more similar. For example, sushi coming to the United States, McDonald's being popular in a variety of countries produce grown almost vulnerable to disease, such as the bananas talked about in different discussions we have about the Caribbean. Something that happens often in the years is how low harvest yields each of these results in the higher prices. For the food systems in the Caribbean, you need to understand a system is a set of elements that are connected and work towards the same goal, and together is more than the sum of its individual parts. Systems are self-preserving and have mechanisms to help it flourish or fail. To truly understand a system, one should look at its actions and behaviors. The overall goal of the food system is to have adequate amounts of safe and nutritious food for the population. The food system starts with production of crops and livestock, moves through harvest and processing of the foods, transportation, marketing, distribution, and include less visible aspects like policies and global markets. Our food system often performs poorly because the subparts don't work towards the same common goal, and there are many discounts between the parts. While the description may seem simple, there are lots of complex moving parts going on. And the role of the land grant university, the challenges of the future, I think need to continue to educate the next generations on and on and on. The economy runs well in the US, but the people that invest in the right areas is the reason why the agriculture is very low. This helps in many ways because we are able to have the people working in areas of the economy. If the people in the Caribbean do this, it can help the food insecurity. The Caribbean has about 45% of the country working in agriculture. I think to face the challenge of the future, land grants need to continue to keep the education high and the amount of workers low so that we can continue to thrive as the number one economy in the world. The agriculture in the Caribbean says that about 45% of the country had jobs in that field. I think that having an LGU would fit great in the country. I think the LGU would work because it would educate us to some of a higher level, freeing up some other knowledge in other areas that just involve agriculture. The food security, safety, and distribution in the Caribbean consists of a place to combat food safety issues. Local health departments are the first place that people go if they have symptoms of a foodborne illness, and how they respond could impact how restaurants and businesses either react or don't react to these issues. It is estimated that there are about 48 million cases of foodborne illnesses every year, which lead to 3,000 deaths, according to the USDA. This is way too many due to prevent illnesses. The government should be extra strict regarding prevention and preventable illness. There shouldn't be just a slap on the wrist for businesses or restaurants that serve unhealthy foods, but they should receive proper punishment. Individuals should take all precautions when preparing their own food to make sure that they are not consuming unhealthy foods. They should make sure they are buying their food from reputable businesses that are also necessary in recessions. When I think of the barriers such as cultural, trade, political, and economic problems going on in the Caribbean, I think of the My Plate I learned in this class in Lincoln, Nebraska. I think the government in the Caribbean needs to make an attempt to make these places healthier. I think the government also wants us to become healthier because not only does it make our country as a whole look better and stronger, but if the Caribbean population is healthier, less people would take Medicare, Social Security, dollars would be not taken from the government. Guidelines needed to be made would be in these different examples such as cultural, trade, political, and economic problems. Many people in the Caribbean do not prioritize climate change because only about 11% of the population is worried. Many think that is a distant problem, distant meaning that it will only disappear over time, but if other parts of the world should deal with. Many also think that generations to come will be the ones to deal with it. The climate change is happening only to colder climates or higher altitudes climates. Climate change is not a priority because other issues such as economy, jobs, healthcare costs, and terrorism take higher priority. When the topic of global warming comes up, the image of melting ice, polar bears, or the ozone layer are the most popular. However, melting ice caps are not associated with higher sea levels or increased number of waterborne diseases. Many base global warming on their experience of weather. The lecture I saw is like an example of cold winter people saying that there is no global warming, and if they experience a hot summer, a global warming will take place. The dismissive people have an influence because so many people can, like such as scientists, can say they're frauds and try to disprove these theories. Some people say it is not happening or that there is no evidence or they blame on social media or conspiracy theories. There is a large gap between what scientists say and what Americans believe or think. There is a bad communication between the science industry and the public, so it can only be tough on the public to know what's going to what's happened or what to believe in. So bridging the gap between science and public will definitely help engage the dismissive people, or at least try to. Taking the public with a simple explanation and not a long, complicated one would also help. The sustainability in organic agriculture in the Caribbean is not up to par. Like we've seen through sources in this, like a class I've taken, organic does not seem to be sustainable on a large scale. In several of my food science classes, there has been several studies of what tested for pesticides in organic foods to see if a runoff from just like adjacent farming was transferring for pesticides to organic like crop fields. Most of the crops tested were positive. This speaks that pesticides have a much bigger impact in our environment than we think and affect more than just the crops they were intended for a long time. Well, not all organic crops are pesticide free, so basically we need to make sure we have a pesticide free environment for our crops. The role that the GMOs can play in feeding the world can be sustainability because their increased crop yields and the reduction of prices. It can also reduce the need for pesticides that organic farming does not solve. So GMOs highlight enriching vitamins in foods such as rice so that it can be a very decent benefit, especially since 25% of rice is grown in complete submergence of water, which is not necessarily great for the rich rice products. We should address the fear of GMOs by being honest about the risk of GMOs in organic farming. The risk of GMOs totally altering the original organism and causing the risk of death. In the Caribbean, utilizing GMOs such as genetically modified fish in such regions should also be driven by products of the sea and be a big risk if the fish end up all having something wrong with them, causing disease in other fish, ultimately harming that part of the economy in the Caribbean. I think that there can be many benefits to GMOs. However, we just need to be careful about the potential hazard in the production process. So thank you very much for everyone who is watching this video. I hope everyone has a good day, and I hope that you learned something about what's going on in the Caribbean with food insecurity. Thank you.